welcome. You're watching Explosive Exclusive. I'm Padmaja Joshi. The story that we are tracking at this moment, 8 days after a girl student was allegedly filmed in her college washroom by 3 other girls from the same college, the Udupi police today has registered 2 suo motu FIRs in the case. One FIR has been registered against the 3 accused women and the second against a social media user who shared a video claiming that it was this suo motu case. The first one is concerning the filming of the girl student and comes just a day after it was initially claimed that the victim had taken her complaint back and the video was nothing more than a prank played on her by her friends. A huge row has since erupted since the incident took place on July 18 but came to light only recently. In fact, now the BJP has stepped in, saying that initially the Congress tried to cover up the entire outrage. They tried to pass it off as nothing more than a prank. Things came to a head when a social media user, Rashmi Samant, a human rights activist, was visited by the police. It was later said that she was spreading fake news and a communal angle was being given to something that's nothing more than a prank. Now the NCW has also stepped in with member of the National Commission for Women, Khushbu, headed to Udupi to speak with.
Please, Jubair, I'm begging you, don't do this. This is a very dirty game. And I know how dangerous it can be for everyone. But they were not ready to listen. Dog whistle kiya. And now the same they are doing with the Rashmi Samant and all those people, Shafali Vaidya. Despite having my disagreement on many topic with the Shafali Vaidya, I feel very sad and bad about it. Ki, isn't Shafali Vaidya is also women? Why her, right, her dignity doesn't come under this entire women's right, dignity? Kyun nahi aata hai? Because if someone want to talk about Hindu women right, they should get equal acceptance, equal respect. जब मुस्लिम women right की बात होती है, क्रिश्चियन women right की बात होती है, तो हिंदू women तो अगर देखा जाए तो ग्लोबली पॉलिटिकल अरेना में वो माइनॉरिटी है, तो उनको वो जगह क्यों नहीं मिलती है? I just don't understand it. नमस्ते, स्वागत है आपका इंडिया दिस वीक के नए एपिसोड में और मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट आमना बेगम, खालिद बेग के साथ.
Hi, this is Khalid Beg and welcome to yet another episode of India This Week. Welcome back, Abhijit Mitra.
Namaste.
Jesus saves brothers and sisters, so hallelujah upon both of you.
Thank you, Abhijit, for your blessings always. So yeah, as you can see from the title of the episode, we're going to talk about this atrocious, very chilling incident which has happened in the coastal town of Udupi in Karnataka, where girls were filmed in a prestigious medical college by their fellow, batchmates, right? And 3 girls studying at a prestigious medical institute in Karnataka's Udupi was suspended after they were, filming another student in the women's washroom. The 3 suspended girls are Aleema, Shaifa, Shabhnaz, and Alfiya. Now, what is more interesting, rather sinister, is that once this news came out, there have been an entire ecosystem which has been trying to ensure that this news is not enough discussed. Hindu rights activists like Rashmi Samant, who raised an alarm over it, was hounded. Imagine the person who was calling that, this has happened, and there were like the death and rape threats issued to her, and police was instead sent to her house in Udupi, where her brother, her father were questioned. And later, of course, because the opposition also there of the BJP, they raised their voice. So now an FIR has been, filed against these 3 girls. Abhijit, I want to get into initially something more weird and more cancerous, is that whenever this has happened, like, and as I have seen someone who's been following current affairs from a young age, if the perpetrators here are Muslims and the victims are Hindus, the leftist media always says that, don't raise it much, why are you highlighting the identities, even though when it's the reverse, when it's Udupi last year, that to a private college which has all the right, they make it a Hindu Muslim issue, right? But now they're doing something more sinister. Now that they are getting challenged post 2014, with the Modi era, you have people in the garb of fact checking, people like Mohammed Zubair, handlers of his account, then doing this dog whistling once a Rashmi Sawant or a noted influencer like Shefali Vedya raises this, them getting death and rape threats, right? And then saying that it's just a prank and it's not that big an issue. So I want you to talk about both these things, that why has secularism always been like this in India?
Well, look, that's the $1,000,000 question. We don't know why secularism is like this in India, but it's always been like this in India, right? Because secularism here, when you say dharma nirpeksh, and again, I want to restate, American secularism is different from French laïcité, which is different from Indian dharma nirpeksh, right? The problem is this has always been electorally convenient dharma paksh, right? So when see, nobody is willing to apply standards to anything. Nobody is willing to go back to first principles. So let's take a simple example. When in Manipur, for example, the video of those naked women was put up, you should talk only about that. At the same time, is asking about a similar episode in Bengal. What about it? Well, I would say yes and no. Yes, because if you say yes, but why haven't you spoken about this? Okay, it is not what about it. But it is not what about it when you say, yes, this is horrible. Okay, and then you turn around and say, now where's your condemnation for this? Okay, so it depends on the framing of the thing as well. But look, this has always been electorally expedient. It has always been electorally expedient because there has always been a sort of a Sunni Muslim vote bank in this country that is kept traditionally depressed for a long time. Because, the British enacted collective punishment after 1857. And it was a society that did not modernize, that ghettoized in many ways, was relegated to very to karigar jobs, which are very low paid and perpetuate that cycle. It was a feudal polity that never modernized, that is based on one or two demagogues who basically get their own good things for themselves in return for ensuring mass tactical voting as and when required, who pimp their services out to different political parties at different points of time and get back favors in that regard. What you're looking at is a feudal Muslim polity, a feudal Sunni polity. The Shias aren't like that. There's a different kind of ghettoization that happens, just like the Hindu caste vote is ghettoized in a different way, etc., etc., etc. Not all ghettoizations are the same. And it is used differently. It is deployed differently. Now, when you have the sort of flag bearer, the alamgar, the guy who takes the alam and walks in front of the procession, kind of the banner to rally around kind of thing, they seem to have found that in Zubair. So notice what he first said. This is misinformation. What was misinformation about it? You can claim it's a prank, but was the video taken? Yes. Was it Muslim girls filming a Hindu girl? Yes. And apparently it's a repeat pattern. Apparently these same girls have been doing it over a year and they've been using it to, it hasn't gotten to blackmail yet, but it was getting very close to blackmail in several cases. And this is their nth time that they've been doing it. There's a whole thread about this and the past precedents of this girl. But, let's leave this particular incident aside. But what does it say about your secularism when in the name of equality to all, you actively interfere for one and you sort of peddle to one? Because for me, when the Congress does it, it is basically green lighting and legitimizing the same behavior by the BJP for Hindus, right? But this is the can of worms that's been opened. If this is the way it goes, and mind you, it was also jurisprudence in this country for a long time that majority governments can only dictate to the majority, they cannot dictate to minorities. Right? So it was kept out of bounds, but when the courts used to rule, so for example, Rajiv Gandhi and the, what was that judgment? Which
The
Arif
Shabano
Muhammad,
one?
the Shabano one, which Arif Muhammad Khan quit over. What was Arif Muhammad Khan quitting over? He was quitting over equal treatment to everybody. Stay out and modernize everybody. Okay. But remember, no political party will allow it. Because if you've got a feudal vote bank that is willing to come and vote as they are told, depending on the highest bidder, whoever wins the feudal lord over, why would any political party want to change that?
Amna, I want to come to you. You wrote a tweet where you said when the Sulli deals and Bully Buy apps were launched, and I was a victim of both apps, there was no theory of these apps being a prank orchestrated by a misleading young mind. Instead, they were used to shame the entire Hindu community, despite many speaking out against it. Now, when we compare this with the recent incident of making a video of a Hindu girl in the bathroom, it is distressing to see what is being downplayed as a mere prank. As a woman, I feel ashamed that how low a cabal can go to trivialize invading women's privacy and engaging in harassment because of their agenda. Could you elaborate on this? Could you tell the viewers what had happened exactly in Sully Deals and Bully Buy with you, of which you're a victim, and how you feel dejected with the way this is getting trivialized?
Yeah, Khalid, I can do that. I mean, basically, I was trying to highlight the bigotry of the entire ecosystem. And the important thing, if you Google the Sulli Buy deal, right, you will find a Wikipedia page in the name of Sulli Buy deal and app. So it says that how it's it just create a narrative. It get used to create a narrative that Muslims are so under the threat. So इसके ऊपर जो है you will find so many articles in Guardian, in all the Western media. But when you see about the Udupi वाला जो incident है, you won't find any covering, international media covering of that incident. So I was just trying to highlight the bigotry, the way they play their sinister game with all those vocabulary they can access to very easily, because they have been trained into doing this industry. They have been trained to play a narrative game. So being a woman, when I see this thing, जहाँ पे औरतों के जो मुद्दे हैं वो सिर्फ पॉलिटिकल पर्पस के लिए यूज होते हैं, आई फाइंड इट वेरी डेंजरस. बिकॉज जितना आप इसको पॉलिटिसाइज करेंगे, जितना ये इशू ऑफ द विमेन की जगह पे इशू ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा और गेम का होगा, उतना विमेन इन द एंड विल बी सफरिंग. औरतों के इशू तभी डिस्कस किए जाएंगे जब उसका किसी में उस इशू में किसी का इंटरेस्ट हो, और एक साइड जो है उसको बढ़ा चढ़ा के पेश करेगा to this entire community, to this entire group of people, to say that they are the monster, or another side उसको use करेगा just to to downplay कि rape भी कोई बड़ी चीज नहीं है. तो यहाँ पे as a women उसी चीज को मैं express कर रही थी. And mind it also you can see the same playbook जब कोई टेररिस्ट की बात होती है जो मुस्लिम साइड से आता है, तो वो विक्टिम हो जाता है जिसको किसी आर्मी ऑफिसर ने कभी थप्पड़ मारा था. ठीक है. और अगर उधर से एक्सट्रीम एलिमेंट एक दो बहुत ही छोटा सेक्शन भी अगर आप हिंदू कम्युनिटी से देखते हो, तो उसको बढ़ा चढ़ा करके पूरे हिंदू कम्युनिटी को शेम किया जाता है. राइट. वही प्ले बुक मैं यहाँ पे विमेन इंसिडेंट में देख रही थी. ठीक है. कि सुल्ली बाइक वाला जो ऐप है, अगर आप देखो तो वो सच में कुछ बच्चे ही थे, वो उनके दिमाग में कुछ चीजें गई थी विच वी शुड बी काउंटरिंग, विच वी शुड बी फाइटिंग अगेंस्ट. बट उन बच्चों ने जब किया तो वो मिसलीडिंग नहीं थे, वो सोसाइटी से ब्रेन वॉश नहीं थे. लेकिन यहाँ पे अगर 3 लड़कियां वीडियो बना रही हैं टारगेट करके, मेरी तो पिक्चर थी सुल्ली बाई ऐप में विच आई डिडंट लाइक. व्हाई वुड यू लाइक इट, मतलब मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आया था उस पे. लेकिन यहाँ पे अगर मेरी कोई वीडियो बनाए मेरे वॉशरूम में तो मेरे ऊपर सच में मतलब मेरा दिमाग तो फक हो जाएगा कि भाई ये क्या हो रहा है, लाइक मेरी तो कोई प्रिवेसी ही नहीं बची। और वहां उसको डाउन प्ले करके बोल रहे हैं कि ये तो प्रैंक था। किस तरह का प्रैंक है भाई ये? अगर ऐसा प्रैंक आपकी खुद की माँ बहन के साथ होगा तो आपको वो प्रैंक ही नजर आएगा। फर्स्ट थिंग। सेकेंड थिंग, बाय डूइंग दैट जुबैर और उनका कबाल कितने इजीली मुस्लिम्स को हमेशा क्लीन चिट दे देते हैं, ठीक है? क्योंकि अगर आप एक्सेप्ट करोगे कि ये 3 लड़कियां ऐसा कर रही हैं और ये प्रॉब्लमैटिक है, दो चीज होगी। या तो आपको ये एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा कि देयर इज अ कम्युनल माइंडसेट बिहाइंड इट विच इज वेरी पैथेटिक, जहां पे आप औरतों को इस तरह से टारगेट कर सकते हो बिकॉज ऑफ योर कम्युनल माइंडसेट। और सेकेंड, अगर ये कम्युनल माइंडसेट नहीं है मान लो, बट देयर इज अ माइंडसेट विच इज प्रॉब्लमैटिक, तो नाउ मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी शुड थिंक अबाउट देयर यूथ कि वो कैसे शेप अप कर रहे हैं। क्योंकि आप हमेशा हिंदू कम्युनिटी को सिखाते रहते हो, देखो तुम्हारे बच्चे तो ऐसे हो रहे हैं, तुम लोगों के साथ तो ये हो रहा है, तुम्हारी कम्युनिटी तो सड़ी हुई है। यही उसने बोला था ना, क्या नाम है इसका, मुझे नाम नहीं याद आ रहा, इनके ही प्लेटफॉर्म पे जाकर के, कम्युनिस्ट के प्लेटफॉर्म,
साजिल उस्मानी,
साजिद उस्मानी की सड़ा हुआ समाज है। बट इस तरह का कोई वर्ड, सड़ा हुआ समाज छोड़ो, इंट्रोस्पेक्शन भी ना करना पड़े तो प्रैंक बोल लो। मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कुछ नहीं है, इनके लिए मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन है कि जो भी इंसिडेंट हुआ है यू हैव टू स्पीक इन आवर लैंग्वेज। हमारे नरेटिव में बोलोगे तो मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है। अगर आपने अपने एक उस पे दिया कि ये हो रहा है, आपने अपना एक व्यू दिया, तो वो मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन है। एक चीज मैं और ऐड करना चाहूंगी, जब राणा अयूब ने ड्यूरिंग द दिल्ली राइट वो ट्वीट्स किए थे जो फेक था, तब ये जुबैर नहीं गया था बोलने कि तुम जो है कम्युनल टेंशन बढ़ा रही हो। एक बार भी ट्वीट किया जुबैर ने, बोला कि तुम जो अभी ट्वीट कर रही हो कि मस्जिद गिर गई है, ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं है, एंड तुम कम्युनल उसमें फ्लेवर में आग में घी डाल रही हो? उस टाइम इनके जबान पे ताला पड़ जाता है। तो ये बहुत अच्छे से एक्सपोज हैं। जस्ट दैट इंस्टेड ऑफ जस्ट हम लोगों को अभी अब्यूज वगैरह नहीं करना चाहिए, वी शुड ब्रिंग द क्रोनोलॉजी एंड हाउ दे आर प्लेइंग देयर डर्टी गेम। So I was just trying to do that, and I was not doing because I subscribe to any ideology or something. I was doing because as a woman I see a very big danger there.
right, right. I want to get into another issue here, Abhijit, is that, for all this argument of popular YouTube channels which say are right of the center, where they are very clear that ultimately it's the Muslim community only which is a problem. Okay. Let's say on surface value, one agrees also to that. Okay. But now let's try understanding this matrix. Okay. Here are 3 Muslim girls who are the perpetrators in this case. They are targeting Hindu women. We can clearly, as progressive nationalist, rational Muslims, see there is a communal angle to it. Because if a Hindu would have done the same thing to Muslim, they would have come out saying it's a communal angle. Okay. But who is supporting the cover up of this? A Congress, which is primarily a Hindu majority party, correct? Communists, the handlers of Zubair's accounts who actually write that are Hindu communists, right? So, beyond the point, doesn't the right wing nationalist also get it wrong? Because he is angry, he starts commenting back, देखो Muslim, Muslim, Muslim. But that Muslim का जो most radical elements है is being supported by a fellow Hindu. Actually, irony ये है, people think it's Zubair typing, which he is not. It is some very shrewd communist mind there, right? Or Pratik is there. There are many. It's a team. You can't do it 24 hours, right? So it's a Hindu fighting the Hindu to cover up a crime committed by a Muslim, then hounding a fellow Hindu who is calling it, and yet the nationalist side goes like, "अरे यार ये Muslims तो होते ही ऐसे." But dude, ordinary Muslim को क्या लेना? तुम्हारे तो तुम ही तो लड़ रहे हो. Like you are Hindu party sending a Hindu police officer to a Hindu Rashmi Sawant who's trying to say that these communal Muslims did this, right? So get me into the Hindu psyche. This is bizarre.
Yeah, so this is one of the things. So if you notice, my issue has always been with this whole thing about, first, you can't blame an entire community for anything. Okay, period. Second, why does the Congress get a short shift, or Hindus in the Congress get a short shift? I have mixed feelings about it, because the moment you start going down the thing saying, well, you're not Hindu enough, it's very dangerous. The other dangerous thing is, in a way, nobody looks at it this way, but I've always said this, and that is what I mean by feudal polity. is that these are essentially Hindu landlords dominating over Muslim serfs, telling them what to do, what to think, how to think, etc., etc. Puppet masters, essentially, right? But who calls them out for that? I don't think the BJP has the intellectual sophistication to call it out. Remember, the BJP, you remember the yin and yang, where the origin of one actually lies in the other. The dots are the two most important things in it. The BJP today is a product of middle-class mobilization, which was created by the Congress and P.V. Narasimha Rao. I think that's why Sonia Gandhi could never forgive P.V. Narasimha Rao and didn't let his body come inside the Congress headquarters, because it was his liberalization that created the BJP. Now, remember, these people have only acquired sophistication of, I would say they have not acquired a sophistication of thought. They have just come about overwhelmingly quite crude in the last 20, 30 years when they've acquired wealth and social mobility and things like that. There is a great crudeness of expression about it. There is a great, like Samuel Huntington says, a society that is growing tends to minimize its own faults and project everything in terms of its righteousness. And that is what you see out here. It's very easy to blame a Muslim and not blame the Hindu who puppeteers the Muslim. Right? Therein lies the real danger. But I don't think the Congress sees it. Well, I think the Congress sees it. I don't think the BJP sees it. I don't think the BJP sees the downstream consequences of what that kind of a crudeness of policy approach does, or in this case, a crudeness of campaigning or messaging approach does. And I've been talking to a lot of them about it. I don't think they get the nuance of it. I don't think they get the nuance of it. So what do you do? Honestly, what do you do? They continue to think of it as some monolith community. To be fair, the government does not, Modi does not, which is why his view of the community is that the path forward is through education. It is through liberating women in whatever small subsistence way possible, but even that helps a lot. But I don't think carrots and sticks applies to the vast majority of the vocal BJP, nor are they willing to look at sort of the Hindu abetment of it. Like I said, I guess it's just political interests involved. And coming back to Zubair, I think anybody who's seen his interviews will know he has no felicity with the English language. He's quite inarticulate and crude in his expressions in English. That Twitter account is clearly not run by him.
Right. So that's the thing, right, Abhijit? If that's the Hindu communist who is hounding a fellow Hindu Shefali Vaidya and a fellow Hindu Rashmi Sawant, इसमें Muslim कहाँ से आ गया फिर?
Exactly. इसमें Muslim कहाँ से आ गया?
Right? Because Muslim is for perception. One thing I have to give to the other side, perception war mein they are much more brilliant than the nationalist side, isn't it?
Of course they are. But okay, let's look at it this way. How do we know this is communal?
I mean, the fact is that because it's the same communists through their news portals and academia and popular culture since decades have told us that whenever there's any incident where the perpetrator is Hindu and the victim is Muslim, it is a communal.
We are not those people.
Right.
So how do we know that this episode in Udupi was even communal? Right. In
the
any
fact that they didn't do it to a fellow Muslim girl.
So in any school that you go to, at least all the schools I went to, there were about, in a class of 40, there'd be about 2-3 Muslims, and the rest would be Hindus. Okay. There, at least in the schools I went to, Muslims didn't stick with Muslims. It was always mixed religion groups and things like that. Right. Nobody really gave a shit. But assume the 3 Muslim girls get a sense of camaraderie. Did they do this? Because I don't know about you, but I was a very, very mischievous child in school. Okay. I used to blow up firecrackers in class. I used to throw orange peels and God knows what not at the teachers when they were facing the board. Now, assume I was a Muslim boy, okay? And I decided to throw a banana peel at my Tamil Brahmin teacher. Did I do it because I am a mischievous boy, or did I do it because she's a Hindu? Now, the older you grow, there's a fascination for sex and sexual humor and sexual whatever, which these girls would have also had a natural curiosity about. And this is like, I mean, you tell me, Khalid, when you were in school, didn't you go around making fun of teasing your, the only school I studied in Kashmir was Tyndale Disco, which was an all-boys school, and we didn't even know what the hell sex was in those days. But in when we came to sort of high school, we'd be like, "Arey, his thing is very small," you know, this and that. It was always that, and it was like, you know, there was a fascination for genitalia across the board, for whatever reason, probably because it was forbidden fruit. How do we know it's not that? It may have been that. The problem is, because the communists communalize everything, when a Hindu does it to a Muslim, you've seen a reactionary trend where every reverse element, everything gets a communal taint. This is something that they let the genie out of the bottle. Now let them deal with it.
Right. That's interesting because, you know, when Amana was being tried to co-opt by the same Mohammed Zubair and the handlers, and his best friend and bestie, the Hindu, Mr. Sinha. And I remember he clearly telling her that, oh, you know what? You talk about Muslim communalism and you talk a little about Hindu communalism, but you should talk more about Hindu communalism. That is the bigger problem. But that gives you a sneak peek into the communist mind that behind that there is this sinister thing that we will weaponize Muslim communalism against the Hindu, even though it's a fellow Hindu doing it, right? Now, but this is very deep in the psyche, because I'll tell you about one of my best friends who's a Tambram, and he said once to me, yeah, you know, we would
see, so you are a communal bigot. You only make friends with Tamrams.
And he said,
and see, it's only natural, because the only people who look like Kashmiris with fair skin and blue eyes are Palakkadiyars. So
he said this thing which really surprised me, shocked me rather. And, you know, we were having a discussion about, the Babri Masjid demolition, the riots later and all. And he said, you know, if the demolition didn't happen, if the riots didn't happen, then you wouldn't have seen these blasts. So I said, are you justifying the blast in a reaction? He said, yeah, dude, I'm justifying. Now, see, I understand because I have grown up with these people in Pune. I know the kind of communist atmosphere through magazines and the Christian missionary schools we come from. But then when you reverse it and say, okay, there are people who are saying if Godra wouldn't have happened, the reaction wouldn't. He's like, are you mad? Are you a bigot? Are you justifying? I'm like, but you gave the same context. But is it our fault also, Abhijit? Because all of us people who are studying in these top tier cities in India are exposed to this communist thing, which was naturalized through the curriculum, where you were always taught that, okay, Hindu does something to a Muslim anywhere, even if he slaps him, it's a criminal case, it's a communal thing. If the Muslim reacts, he's reacting. Everything is a reaction. And don't blow it up, as Mr. Sinha told him, because then that threatens, that gives ammunition to the Hindu. But this is a larger civilizational question, because this is so deep rooted, Abhijit, in the city dwelling urban.
I break this up into three parts. One is the savior complex that certain Hindus have. It's this sort of patronizing superiority complex. You know, oh, you poor Muslim, you are so stupid. You are suicide bombing because you don't know. I am going to come. I am your great savior, and I am going to come and help you see the error of your ways. It's really no different than that idiot Christian missionary who went to the Sentinel Islands and tried to convert the Sentinelese and got shot full of arrows. Do you remember the guy? This was 2-3 years back. I think it was during COVID. Yeah. It's the same attitude. Because according to them, Amna and you are stupid. You're really not terribly smart. You need saving. It's that Christian proselytizing mindset. I need to save you from hellfire. Okay. And it comes from a fundamental superiority complex that they understand something that you do not. Which is why you will see the vast, Zubair is just one person. I mean, there are one or two altu faltus here and there, but the overwhelming majority of these chaps are Hindus who fundamentally view you as an inferior being who does not know, भटका हुआ मुसलमान है तू, जो हिंदुओं के चाल में आ गया, और मैं तेरे को काफरिस्तान से नूरिस्तान लेके जाऊंगा. ठीक है ना, क्योंकि तेरे को भगवान खुदा का नूर मिल जाएगा मेरे पे. So it's this kind of prophet messiah complex, number one. The second part of this is understand the funding opportunities in this are immense. There is a financial reward to doing this. Alt News today has bought a swanky new office in Ahmedabad. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Very swanky new office, apparently very, very expensive by Ahmedabad property standards, and they've bought it permanent to move in. Okay, so ये भी आएगा थोड़ी देर में. अभी इसको भी पर्दाफाश होगा. There's a very good case for money laundering to be made by them, or at least not declaring incomes and things like that. But people don't realize how profitable it is. You get nominated for the Nobel Prize and then you use that to raise money, etc., etc., etc. Imagine a guy like Zubair who cannot give an unscripted interview that isn't, where the interviewer isn't essentially filleting him, can somehow write English, somehow has the cognitive ability to understand and absorb the nuances of the English language and then fact check them. I think not. I think not. He is the son of a mango plucker who's quite educated, appropriate to his class, with all the attendant benefits and disadvantages that brings. Okay, a certain street smartness, but also a certain lack of a larger understanding. But most importantly, a thirst to prove oneself. The need for social validation, the need for social climbing, which is there in all of us, but it is far less for those of us who are privileged than for those of us who have come from an unprivileged background. This is the second part to why things like this happen. The third part of this phenomenon is entirely one of social mobilization within the community. When a Pratik Sinha says something, it won't have the same verve as a Muslim saying it himself. So, for example, let me give you another example of it that is non-contextual here. When Robert Oppenheimer says something about the Gita, Indians love it. But when Rabindranath Tagore says something about the Gita and then wins the Nobel Prize, he gets to write your national anthem, become your national poet, and get celebrated across the board. Because it's a community validation of community, which then gets celebrated. Of course, you want external validation. But when one of your community who expresses your view or your anxiety gets celebrated internationally, it creates a sort of creature of its own being. All of this feeds into it. Now, the underlying part of this is the politics. Communism is based on feeding off victimhood. They are bottom feeders who thrive on victims. Remember, their biggest their biggest war cry in Central Asia during the Tsarist period was how badly the Central Asian Muslims had been oppressed by the Tsar. Once they came to power, They killed Central Asian Muslims like nobody, forced them to eat pork, wiped out their entire heritage, and Europeanized them. They also did lovely things. So, for example, the Registan Square in Samarkand with the 3 madrasas facing each other was entirely restored by Soviet archaeologists, which is fantastic. Thank you for that. But does restoring that compensate for the killing of, God knows, 2-3 million Central Asian Turks, Muslim Turks? I don't think it does. It's like saying Aurangzeb giving 50 rupees to a Pandit to carry out puja somehow excuses the millions of Hindus that he killed in his genocidal wars. It does not. But the communists will have you believe that they're doing it for the best interest. The thing is, it's a very interesting combination. There's always been this thing where Muslim polities have always understood communists and communists have always understood the Muslim polity. They are actually each other's worst enemies, but they know how to form alliances of convenience. Which is why when communists come to power, the first thing they do is kill off all the political Muslims. And when political Islam comes to power, the first thing it does is kill off all the communists. Okay, so you look at
China
Iran
and Pakistan being the prime examples where communists in one case kill the Muslims, and in the other case, the Muslims kill the communists,
Iran, I mean, the communists were supporting Imam Khomeini coming back and all of that. And the first purges were in fact against Iranian communists. Right? You've seen this repeatedly. The Baath Party is a socialist party, and in Iraq and in Syria, who were the enemies number one? In this, Saddam Hussein was very secular because he killed off the Sunni ulema with the same vigor as he killed off the Shia ayatollahs. Hafiz al-Assad was the exact same, right? On the other hand, wherever the Muslim Brotherhood takes power here and there, it's been very rare. They wipe out, where political Islam takes power, they wipe out the communist class because that's the biggest threat to their power. Even today in America, what do you see? Wokeism will not be destroyed by liberalism or by enlightenment values or anything like that. Wokeism will be destroyed by Islam in America, which is why I haven't tweeted about Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib for a very long time. I have great hopes from them. Because the only people talking against genital mutilation and child abuse in America today are Islamists. And hats off to them. They're the only people that have the guts to stand up for our children, while bloody Hindus are going around and allowing their children to get molested, allowing their children to get genitally mutilated. इधर सबके सब हरामजादे ट्वीट करते रहते हैं, oh, look at female genital mutilation amongst the Bohri community. और सबको सैन फ्रांसिस्को जाके अपने अंकल आंटी के पास रहना है या न्यूयॉर्क में जाके चाचा मामा के साथ रहना है. While they're supporting child genital mutilation, confusing the child, gaslighting the child, and then having gender affirming surgery, as it's called. Okay, so it's problematic, it's complex, it's confusing, but personally, as a sort of amateur anthropologist, I find it fascinating.
Amana, we saw that the dog whistling.
I just wanted to add one thing, like ये जो अभी कबाल है, ये इन्होंने ऐसा नैरेटिव क्यों नहीं लाया कि वो जो तीनों लड़कियां थी, so they might be the minority in the class, and बाकी हिंदू लड़कियां उनको बहुत परेशान करती थी, so those girls were trying to take a revenge basically, वो वीडियो बना करके एक ये भी नैरेटिव को चला सकते थे अगर देखा जाए तो, maybe in
but
future.
if they had used that,
yeah,
then malicious intent would have basically convicted them.
Yeah, that's smart.
तो misinformation और prank ही फिर leftist media ने किया ना, कि misinformation जुबैर के handlers ने डाला, leftist media ने फिर उसको prank बता दिया, and यहाँ they are quoting the accused, they are not quoting the victims, मतलब accused का ही quote कर रहे हैं, जहाँ पे फिर सूट करता है किसी और चीज में. Amna, as a woman, I wanted to get your attention to the fact that जब जुबैर के handlers ने last year dog whistling की towards नुपुर शर्मा, और तुम ही थी एक जो thread पे आई कि ऐसे blasphemy का accusation मत करो because you know बहुत dangerous हो सकता है. उसके बाद 6 people got beheaded for that, right? उस चीज से भी इस हैंडलर को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा, एंड पोस्ट दैट he's कभी कभी I mean he's a you know मेन हैंडलर्स इज अ प्रीटी नार्सिसिस्ट because वो खुद भी फिर विक्टिम भी खेलते हैं. It's like that Joker in the Joker movie, right? You're evil also, then when they rebut you, then they say, you know, he says, see, now they're attacking me, you know, those things are also happening. But now post that, you see now Rashmi Samant has been also dog whistled and she's got death and rape threats. Shefali Vedya, who's a popular influencer, she also has got that. And they've done the same with Smita Prakash as well. You partly also, when that thing happened, did get a few, you know, intimating messages, and then they backed off for whatever reason. This is getting even more dangerous from the Islamist communist cabal ना, कि एक तो अगर आप ऐसी चीजों को उछालेंगे जो उनके नैरेटिव में नहीं होता है, now they will send these online mobs towards you, and there is this with these 4 women, and partly you were also there. How do you see that?
I see that they're very dedicated to their cause, their ideology, or whatever they want to achieve, and they won't think twice or be careful, like who is going to be victim of that, you know, what they want to achieve, uske beech mein kaun victim ban raha hai, they do not care about it. And somehow, yeah, I am very surprised that Zubair attacked me once. I got a 1 or 2 death threat as well, and so many abuses. But after that, he doesn't touch me. He won't reply me. I don't exist there. And maybe this is also their part of their big plan or game, something. I, you know, when this entire fact-checking thing were on the line, tab se, I was thinking why they're doing this. And what I came to the conclusion is, this is basically to keep a certain kind of power to themselves, authority, to be always the authority. So it doesn't matter who is in a power. They have always been holding a certain kind of power over the system by various means, by the journalism or any way, and they will negotiate with the state. तो वो उनका जो है, like there's a 2 thing. Once ideological जो उनका dedication है, second they want to be someone in the power जिनको वो अच्छे से control कर सके. There are certain things which they will push and you have to negotiate with them. And then they have this cabal, this system which is internationally very well oiled, like the power they have. So if it comes to blasphemy, they won't hesitate bringing foreign power to interfere in Indian matter. Now they know कि Udupi में जो government है, we can easily influence them, we can easily use that state की जो institution है, so they are doing the same because they know their power, they can use it. And they have been very smart because वो नए नहीं है ना. In the right wing, there are so many things I do criticize, but they are like very naive and reaction में सब कुछ है. But these are like a old time player. इनका बहुत पहले का गेम है. इफ यू सी, इनको कोट करने के लिए, मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन बनाने के लिए 10 इनके पास और न्यूज वेबसाइट है जो उस तरह का न्यूज लेकर आएंगी जो इनके अलाइनमेंट में हो, फिर वो उनको कोट करेंगे, फिर वो एक दूसरे को ही कोट करेंगे, बट उनका पूरा एक इकोसिस्टम है अपनी बातों को मनवाने के लिए. तो and also when I see their hatred for the BJP, I know like people can say ki because they are very they have a separatist kind of mindset where they don't want to accept the integrity of India, sovereignty. They won't accept it openly. तो उसकी वजह से उनको BJP
You're talking about the cabal. They have the separatists.
The cabal, yes, separatist.
Zubair's handlers
and all. But still they see in that sense BJP totally a position of their ideological spectrum. एक वो वार है. Second, they know they cannot negotiate or blackmail the BJP government because they are not going to listen to them. So it's not that I don't even see when I talk about the Congress, like there are so many flaws in the Congress, but I haven't seen Congress being anti-national. I mean, they also save the integrity and sovereignty of India. They also fight for it. They're not going to give up you on the plate India ki haan le jao to टुकड़े कर दो. तो वहां इनके बीच में भी fight होता है. But still they see this government is a far easier to, you know, subvert इनको जो हमको करवाना है वो हम उनसे बहुत इजीली करवा लेते हैं। एंड फैक्ट चेक का जो इन्होंने पूरा धंधा खड़ा किया है, इट इज बेसिकली वी विल बी ऑलवेज अथॉरिटी एंड वी विल बी गिविंग यू वैलिडिटी। अगर तुम नहीं हमारे नरेटिव्स के साथ में काम कर रहे हो तो तुम गलत हो ही होगी। एंड वो जो उनका फैक्ट चेकिंग का पूरा मशीन है, वो फैक्ट चेक करते हैं बड़े चालाकी से। एक दो फैक्ट चेक वो अपने अगेंस्ट भी करते हैं, अपने लोगों के अगेंस्ट भी, बट वो कुछ छोटा मोटा ऐसा होता है, जैसे किसी ने चावल नहीं खाया था, दाल खाया था, लाइक इट वोंट बी द बिग थिंग, राइट। बट असली जब गेम प्ले करना होता है वो होता है इस टाइम पे। नुपुर शर्मा का स्टेटमेंट, वो क्यों नहीं फैक्ट चेक किया? ऐसे बोलेगा मैं जर्नलिस्ट नहीं, तो जर्नलिस्ट नहीं है तो जब विशल डॉग करता है या फॉरेन से जब वो मांगता है तब तो जर्नलिस्ट है, तब तो फैक्ट चेक का काम कर रहा है। यू डू फैक्ट चेक ओनली। नो, दैट टाइम ही विल प्ले द डर्टी गेम। एंड आई, being from the community, I know exactly what he was doing. Once you bring the blasphemy, there is a death, there is a destruction. And you know, being एक तो कम्युनिस्ट का बाल, तुमने दुनिया देखी है, तुम्हें दुनिया का हिस्ट्री पता है। दूसरा, being a Muslim, you know how dangerous it can be. Knowingly they played that game, and I will never forgive them, never ever forgive for them for them this thing. I went there, I was not fighting even, I was telling, please Jubair, I'm begging you, don't do this. This is a very dirty game, and I know how dangerous it can be for everyone. But they were not ready to listen. Dog whistle kiya. And now the same they are doing with the Rashmi Chamant and all those people, Shafali Vaidya. Despite having my disagreement on many topic with the Shafali Vaidya, I feel very sad and bad about it. Ki, isn't Shafali Vaidya is also women? Why her, right, her dignity doesn't come under this entire women's right, dignity? क्यों नहीं आता है? Because if someone want to talk about Hindu women right, they should get equal acceptance, equal respect. जब मुस्लिम विमेन राइट की बात होती है, क्रिश्चियन विमेन राइट की बात होती है, तो हिंदू विमेन तो अगर देखा जाए तो ग्लोबली पॉलिटिकल अरेना में वो माइनॉरिटी है, तो उनको वो जगह क्यों नहीं मिलती है? I just don't understand it. And for me, until unless this unfairness and biasness would be there, nothing is changing. Let them try. They will just create more problem. Things are not changing in India, and I would say good for. I said there is no other option. For me also, many a time, I do not like a lot of things. I do criticize. But then when I see all the option, I don't see any other option right now. This is the only way India can survive. That's how I feel then. Because you see, look, मणिपुर का जो केस हुआ है, हमने कितनी गालियां दी हैं स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को, डिस किया है, बट राइट विंग स्टिल थोड़ा बहुत लाते हैं। आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि नोबडी इज डूइंग एनीथिंग, बट स्टिल दे लिसन, ठीक है, स्टिल उनके अंदर शर्म आती है, स्टिल स्टेट को टेंशन हो जाता है कि भाई कुछ तो करना है, देयर इज समथिंग गोइंग रॉन्ग। बट यहाँ लेफ्ट को तो कोई शर्म ही नहीं है, दे कैन प्ले इन एनी वे। वो मतलब कोई भी लेकर आएंगे, उसको व्हाइट वॉश करेंगे, तो उसमें आपको दिखता है ना कि यू हैव टू चूज समथिंग, एंड देन आई थिंक आई डोंट हैव एनी अदर ऑप्शन टू चूज।
Abhijit, if you notice clearly that, Pratik and then fellow handlers of Zubair's account, they take these suparis, right, from whichever ideological opponents or enemies or business interest, and then they go after that person. Now, if you see for last 1 year, they are very clear that they want to target ANI and Smita Prakash, heads it. If you look at the last 1 year, the amount that they keep on scrutinizing ANI, the amount they keep on labeling it, which finally they showed the dark side of it, where ANI made a mistake, an editorial mistake, where they named a Muslim. There were 2 reports by Manipur police. A Muslim man's name came, and they said, "Acha, he's one of the accused in the Manipur, that rape parade thing." Then they, just after a few hours, where handlers of Zubair only brought it to notice, said, "Okay, sorry, there was a typo." But what happened next, Abhijit, was shocking, because such a powerful and popular person like Smita Prakash started getting death and rape threats, who's a good friend of yours as well. Now, this is, I mean, this is like clearly hit jobs being done here.
But see, here's the problem. Like Amana said, this guy knows exactly what he's doing, because the political negotiation power for ghettoized Sunni communities lies through violence on the street. Okay? He knows exactly what he's doing. You know, when a certain judge said, how can I stop him from tweeting? He's a journalist. a journalist should have a greater awareness of his own actions. So the burden on him is higher. He had greater knowledge of his actions. That did not merit a release or a freedom from, that did not merit either release or getting bail. If anything, the fact he was a journalist, he should have known what he was doing, and that merited solitary confinement. Okay. But this fellow is, remember, there are now serious monetary interests in this fellow. He says what the Congress can't say openly. He says what every second, third party which wants to play the Muslim card can't say openly. He will do it for them. You have seen the current Congress president's son saying what? On it chief or on it boss or whatever. Imagine the home minister.
To the handle of the bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine the home minister of Karnataka taking orders from this guy.
So isn't this also putting fear? Because if a Smita Prakash can get attacked, why would the average Hindu or Muslim want to raise anything about it?
Remember, 6 people had their heads chopped off the last time. One on video, which was then shared. We've all seen that video.
Yeah.
He's never been held responsible for it. And mind you, he deliberately decontextualized it from what this fellow said before that lady. He claims to be a fact checker. He never fact checked it, like Amna pointed out. Okay. Let's take something bigger. The entire Rafale thing. Did he ever once fact check a single Rafale report? Especially that blatant forgery that Enram put out on the front page of the Hindu for 3 days running. No. During Galwan, there was a huge thing about where the borderline lay and where Chinese troops were and where they weren't. At any point of time, did he come out and fact check a single one of those? No. So, काय का fact checker hai? Then he will say you can't question editorial decisions. But then the same standards don't apply to ANI. Now, ANI, understand, doesn't editorialize. ANI reports things as they happen when they happen. There is a difference between reporting, journalism, and editorials. Reporting is reporting exactly what you see then and there. Assume Amna is in the process of killing me right now. You suddenly walk in and you are a reporter for, I don't know, for NDTV. You will then immediately turn on your phone and say, see, this is where Amna Ansari is brutally killing Abhijit Mitra right now with a knife. Okay. Is that correct or is that false?
That's correct.
It is what you have seen. It is correct. Unreported in this whole thing is what happened before you came, wherein I took hot oil and threw it on Amna Ansari in an attempt to kill her. Now, when you bring that contest, it becomes false. Unreported even in that is when Amna tried to feed me poisoned laddus. She laced laddus with rat poison in the last Ganesh Chaturthi and tried to kill me before that. You see, contextualization, decontextualization, that is how these scumbags work. And by the way, Abhinandan Sekhri and that cross-eyed dingbat, what's her name? Manisha, they are exactly
Manisha
Pandey. Pandey. She's a pawn and day. She's a daytime pawn. Pandey, this is what they also do. Imagine a guy doesn't know what reporting is, what journalism is, and journalism mein kya hota hai, you then start searching for the background, the context and things like that, and then you go report. Okay, you file your reports. There are very different jobs coming out of that. ANI is a feeder agency. It tells you what it hears then and there on the ground. When things change, it will give you a different thing. By the way, why isn't anybody talking about the fact that that particular report given to ANI was given by a Christian officer in the Manipur police?
Abhijit, why do you think Smita Prakash and ANI are a target since last 1 year?
Because they report on absolutely everything which exposes the double standards of these guys. They've got the most intensive news network coverage across the country. PTI has only 10% of the market. Okay. But PTI is ideologically aligned with these guys. Remember, the head is the Avik Sarkar, who runs the nastiest headlines. His family, the complete garbage family that runs nasty headlines in the Telegraph. You saw the last headline, no?
Yeah, that crocodile thing. Yeah.
Crocodiles and crap like that, anti-national and whatnot. Absolute garbage. And this is, first is the ideological alignment. The second is the fact that when things like this happen, there will always be an ANI report which shows you that Malda mein those two women got stripped and paraded naked. At the same time, Manipur happened. So it's an attempt at information control. And they realize how the democratization of information makes their life impossible. Today, again, it is precisely because of the democratization of information that we know everything that happened in Udupi. Otherwise, it would have just been Sarkar ne bola and Zubair ne bola, and therefore this is misinformation. So it's protecting their own turf. This is how things happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Abhijit. And we'll discuss about some other topic next. Thanks. Bye.